Welcome back, everyone, to the Weekly Armchair Kickoff Podcast. Today, we're joined by a special guest, MMA fighter from MMA Cork, John Mitchell. He's currently fighting in the Cage Warriors promotion. And joined today also by podcast regular Jamie Mackie Murphy. And we're just going to be talking about John's career and other MMA topics here today. John, how's it going? Thanks for coming on here today.
Yeah, no worries, boys. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to listening to it now. So, back into it.
Absolutely. So John, recently you have signed for the Cage Warriors promotion. So you've fighted on the Irish fight scene in MMA. Just talk to us about your journey to Cage Warriors and how that materialized.
Yeah, so it was I was fortunate enough. As soon as I started this sport, I had really good minds around me, like my head coach Aaron. So it was a long journey to pro, but it seemed long, but it was quite quick. So I really only made my amateur debut there in 2016, I think. And 4 years later, I'm on Cage Warriors. But just in that, I was fighting every second month. I had boxing fights, Thai boxing fights, and MMA fights. So it was it came quickly, but it felt like it took a while, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that probably felt like you took a while because your activity, you were very active, across multiple disciplines. So, for example, you did kind of, you're doing a bit of Muay Thai, you're doing MMA, you're doing boxing. In terms of that, in terms of building your game, did you find that doing all them disciplines kind of made you a more well-rounded fighter?
100%. You have it on the ball there. What I was doing was building my game. So, I had fights where I was just all Thai boxing fights, you know what I mean? And when I was literally fighting Thai boxing and I was getting good at fighting lads that stand up, and then I had fights where I fought really good wrestlers. And then I had some fights where I had to take it to the mat. So that was the plan when I was amateur. I had 15 amateur fights just in MMA and all different styles, all good lads every time. Just by the time I came to pro, then it was a thing of nothing. I'd done it so many times before, so no surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, your upcoming fight against Alex Brykalski. How has your preparations gone? Obviously, with the COVID-19 pandemic, though a lot of things have changed in terms of training in groups and stuff like that. How has preparation gone? Has the pandemic affected you in any way, shape, or form?
Honestly, no, not at all. I came out of the lockdown in a good place. I'd done a big strength phase. That's what I kind of used the lockdown for. And in terms of training partners, my key training partners live near me and we're in the same groups anyway. So no, it was grand. To be honest, it's probably been, I know every fighter says this, but it's probably been the best camp I've done just because my schedule's changed. I'm not working nights anymore. I'm literally just full-time training and coaching now at the moment. So it's good. It's really good.
100%. That's great to hear, Joe. The fact that the pandemic hasn't affected your preparation whatsoever. So it looks like you have a full sharp head and you're ready to go.
I had nothing to do but train, boy. You know what I mean? So yeah, forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John, in terms of, I suppose, the inspiration for fighting in the first place, I know you started boxing in 2014, but do you have any early memories of combat sports that would have really got you interested in actually becoming professional? Is there any standout moments that you can think of from your life?
Yeah, so the reason really I did it is because, I was always competing in sports, since I was young, and I was always competing to a good level. So initially, I was rowing and I was on the Irish rowing team and I was doing that. And my granddad used to box and my dad used to box and was always a big thing in my family. So I always wanted to try it. So as soon as I packed up the rowing, I think I was 18 and I just wanted to try something completely new. And I always got to fighting. And my friends will tell you growing up, be it for good or bad reasons, I was always suited to this sport, you know what I mean? So as soon as I did it then, I just started having good success straight away because I was training as much as I was rowing, kind of 10, 11 times a week. And it just, because I was so used to competing, it didn't seem like that daunting a thing. So when I did my first MMA fight in MMA Cork after 2 months training, it was a novice fight and it just felt like competing again. So I was so used to it. So I just wanted to compete all the time then and I fell in love with it fairly quickly.
And then I suppose in terms of having that athletic background and I suppose the competitive background, did you well now in MMA in terms of the mental side of the sport also? Because one of the things I find really interesting is the 24 hours before a fight. It can be daunting, obviously, especially a live crowd. And how do you mentally prepare for that? And do you have techniques that you would use, or is a situation that you're pretty cool and relaxed anyway, naturally?
Yeah, it's just at this stage it's cool and relaxed, but definitely, like you were saying there, was bang on. My earlier sports career, helped a lot, because although like rowing's completely different to fighting, competing is so similar to competing. Like when I'm doing this fight, it's such a big deal to me. But when I was rowing, even when I was 15, it was as big a deal to me. It was just a different perception on it. You know what I mean? And then in terms of like the night before the fight, like all the work's done, everything's done. There's nothing to do but just wait for the fight to come to you at that point, because you spend weeks and weeks thinking about it coming. But like the night before then, I just switched off. I just always watch 300 or something like that. And I don't even think about fighting. I just talk to my old doll, and just because it's going to come, there's plenty of fighting the next day. So like one thing when I was rowing, like the coaches used to always say, like you don't have to do the race more than once. Like, so don't be running it over in your head all the time. So by the time the fight comes, like I don't fight your man 100 times in my head. I just save it for those 15 minutes I have to do it. Like, and I fight every day. Like when I train, I fight. When I do jiu-jitsu, I fight. So it's so similar. Like you forget about the crowd once you get a slap in the face. Like, trust me.
Absolutely,
100%.
100%. And in terms of going forward now, obviously you don't want to look too far past the Alex fight, but what's your aspirations for the next number of months and even going into a couple of years? Where do you see yourself going?
Just, man, well, like the goal like is 100% the UFC. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have done all those hard fights at amateur and wouldn't be in Cage Warriors if it wasn't for that. Like, so, you know, just absolutely give this fight welly and then like go straight back into training and give the next fight absolute welly, and just keep like with amateur, like I just keep good lads working hard, getting the belts, got where I need to be. So at pro, I'm just going to keep fighting good lads, getting the belts, get where I need to be. Do you know what I mean? It's simple if you think about it. Like, so just keep working hard.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you're really enjoying
Alex,
it, obviously it makes a massive difference. That's the big part of it.
I love it, man. I used to get in trouble for this, and now I get paid to do it. Yeah.
John, I'd just like to ask you, do you know, like I know Jamie kind of alluded to the mental aspect of the sport. Now, in the last kind of 12 months, like high-profile fighters such as Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Darren Till have been very vocal about how they feel the night before the fight, and you know they don't know what version of themselves they're going to see in the cage. Like, what do you think about that mindset of fighting? Has that ever happened to you before, or do you think it's something that is just down to an individual?
No, 100%. Like, you know, there's been I've one good thing about amateurs, as much as it's physical, it's fighting, it's so mental. So like there's some fights I've approached them with a completely different mentality and they've gone a certain way, and other fights I've complete like went at them with a different mentality and didn't go well. So you know, like I think at this stage I've got a fairly good grasp on the night before the fight. Like all I can control is what I can control, if you know what I mean. I can't control what he's going to do. I think the only things I control is my effort, my attitude, and my aggressiveness. You know what I mean? Besides that, nothing me. So I can approach the event confidently. Do you know what I mean? That's completely my control every time. I can give 100% effort. That's completely my control. And I can absolutely go for him. That's in my control. You know what I mean? And besides that, that's all I worry about, you know, just doing what I did in training. Because I can't, like, if he's going to be really fit or he's going to be really strong, I don't control any of that. I just control what I'm going to do on the night, you know. And I think that gives me a lot of ease of mind. Because when I go into it then, I just think about those three things and I go try do them. So, yeah. That answers that.
I suppose, do you feel that's really important to, as you're preparing for a fight and you're in your camp, that every day you're actually giving yourself credit in terms of the work that you put in? Because when it comes to then the final day of it and the hours beforehand, you can kind of look back and say, yeah, I put in the hard hours there. I've done this on this day, and it gives you much more confidence in terms of actually doing it. If you're going into the fight and kind of doubting the work you've done, that makes you doubt yourself also.
Yeah, what I think is like during fight camp anyway, for me personally, and this is just to me, I don't know whether it's right or wrong now, I really put my ego in my back pocket, and like, you know, I try go with lads that smash me. Like I go with my coach Aaron McGregor, I go with him MMA, and he takes me down and wrecks me. So then I try go with him more. I go up to Dublin Combat Academy, who Craig Coakley, who wrecks me again, you know, and I just keep being harsh on myself fight camp, getting better. But then as soon as I get to the fight, that's when that ego completely comes back out for me anyway, because now you might as well back yourself. Now you might as well think you're the best lad.
Absolutely.
So you know, that's what I do. So like in fight camp, I go with the guys that beat me up. I go with the lads that are going to make me go home being like, oh, why am I even fighting this lad? And then once I get to the fight, I can just cash all that in, like, you know what I mean? So that's the way I think about it.
And it's the right mindset to have.
Yeah. So, do you know, like when you go into the fights, there's no point now being like, oh, did I do enough? Even if you didn't do enough, you better act like you did. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're about to be in a cage fight, like, so.
You're about to go into
100%.
war, like you have to be in that war state of mind.
Nah, man, go in and give it welly, like. Do you know what else can you do?
100%.
Yeah.
John, with kind of relation to like MMA, like if there for like most of our viewers would be kind of they'd be mostly football based, and we'd have kind of MMA fans as well. And I know people don't like the same, but we probably have casual MMA fans who would watch this show. Like for you yourself, if you could pick like one fight that stands out, like in terms of Thai boxing, MMA, you know, boxing itself, or any other kind of combat related sport, like is there one fight that kind of sticks out to you and that you like would you like recommend to watch for any of our viewers?
Yeah, there's plenty of fights I love to watch, but if you want to watch Fabio Pinca versus Bobby, if you want to type that in, it's an old one now, but the two boys fought in K1 and they started swinging elbows. It is a mad fight. It, like, if you're ever feeling nervous, just watch that and you'd be good to go. Like, it's not that well known, but I love Fabio Pinca, like, and I love watching him fight, you know. And then, like, and then what I do in terms of watching fights, like, so do you know, when you go into MMA, like, it's quite strategic. So not that I'm going to, but let's say if for this fight I was just going to take him down and he's a big puncher, I'd watch loads of fights with Khabib, or I'd watch loads of fights with Kamaru Usman doing that, and I get motivation from that and see how they're doing it. Or let's say I don't want to get taken down, I'd watch Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez, so that type of thing. So that's what I say. But if you just want the war, Fabio Pinca versus Bobby, or any fight that Dylan Maher's in is unreal. Any fight, like
Dylan just goes to war every time.
Oh man, and he's technical as well, like, and he still goes to war. He's unreal. He's unreal.
Oh, stop. I remember, I think it was his Four Nations title fight against a man over in England. And like he done absolutely unreal, like, and Dylan was smashing him. And then your man hit him with a shot, and Dylan just looked at him and gave him the D-Generation X chop. I thought it was one of the best moments ever I've seen in the fight. Like,
I was in the corner for that fight. That was in Black Rock, in the Rome at the Rockies. Jesus, yeah, Dylan's something else, man. He's some mindset on him. And the thing is, like, Dylan's been like one of my best friends and training partners there since I was 19, you know. And like, somewhere along the line, he just got absolutely huge, and I didn't, like. So he's been kicking me just the same ever since. He's a beast.
Yeah. Do you think, like, even like with Dylan's stand-up game, do you think maybe he could maybe push into the world of MMA if you ever did want to try it, like?
Yeah, why not? Like, why not? Like, you know, he, like, all you have to be in MMA to go into this sport is willing. Like, so if I'm sure, like, he's got around him, I'd certainly be coaching him a good bit. Like, so yeah, why not?
Absolutely. And Jamie, do you know, like, with regards to like the current MMA world at the moment, obviously there's big fights coming up, such as Khabib versus Justin Gaethje, like Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Like, lads, like, what do you think of them fights coming up? Like, you know, they're very high profile fights and they're very big in terms of them divisions in the UFC.
I suppose I'm looking forward to probably the Israel and Paulo Costa fight, probably the most out of all those, to be honest, just because it's the type of fights that I like to see, where it's someone that's really technical and someone that has, I suppose, is a powerhouse and has brute force. And people probably don't give Paulo Costa enough credit in terms of how technical he is also. I know he rushes into the fire, and against Yoel Romero, it was an absolute war, but I'm thinking that's the fight I'm looking forward to the most. And I think Izzy has to be careful in terms of what he does. I feel like he maybe has lost a little bit of confidence since the Kelvin Gastelum fight, a little bit in terms of his approach. He's very, very calculated in terms of what he's doing. Against Romero, it was probably too. It wasn't what I would like to see from him. It was a bit too calculated. You have to take risks to really get the reward. But against Paulo, I think he has to show up and really show the pedigree that he actually is. He won't be scared by Paulo's size, though, not one bit. Like, Paulo is a big boy, like, but Izzy has fought some big lads in K1 too, like, so it's going to be a good fight. That's my fight I'm looking forward to the most. Like, everyone knows that's going to be a great fight. I think the media are hyping up a little bit to say that, look, it's yet again Khabib's best opponent. or hardest fight. But I still see him doing the same things. I know Justin has a really great wrestling background, but how many fights has he really kind of played with that over the last couple of years to really get the practice in? I know he's sparring and stuff, and he does groundwork in the gym and all, but actually out there with a live audience and the pressure of it, and someone at the level of Khabib, I still think that Khabib probably wins that fight probably handily enough. I don't know what John thinks of that, and he might have a completely different opinion of what I think of it, but that would be my kind of view on it.
Yeah, I think with Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya, like initially I think for the first round, Paulo Costa might be looking like he's having success, but like Israel Adesanya is one of the smartest lads in the game for setting up traps. Like, you know, he's just more clever, and like it really is brains versus brawn. So I think when you look at that fight, like Israel does get touched as well, but like he's got touched by much better K1 fighters, much better. Cream always rises to the top in that. So I think just like with Gastelum, he might get touched till he finds his range, and if none of those shots do him, second round, Costa's going to be walking at the stuff, elbows, and like, you know, it doesn't matter how big you are, if you get a head or an elbow, knock you out just the same, like, you know what I mean? So I think, and as well, in terms of like, blitz attacks, like, if you look at I can't believe I can't remember his name. What's the name of the Australian MMA lad? He had Robert Whittaker. Yeah, he's quicker than Costa, and he absolutely blitzed into shots. Yeah, he got knocked out. He got knocked out for doing that. Gastelum got knocked out for walking onto shots. So now, literally, you're getting a lad that's going to run, literally, maybe physically run at Israel Adesanya. So if he walks onto a spinning elbow, it doesn't matter if you're 200 kg, it's going to damage you. So, and then in terms of Khabib and Gaethje, I'm probably wrong now about this. I'm probably wrong. But if you just ask my friends, I've always backed Gaethje on that one. Like, but really, it could just be like Poirier. He just comes out and because Gaethje has been wrestled badly in fights before. You saw it, you know, where he still won, but he was getting taken down. But just with the folk wrestling, I'd love to see him do it. You know, I'd love to see him knock out Khabib. Be unreal.
Yeah, I'd love to, myself personally, I'd like to see a Justin Gaethje Conor McGregor fight. Because I think that fight would just be an absolute slugfest. Like, do you know what I mean? It'd just be great to watch. Yeah,
definitely. But sorry, go on.
No, sorry, go on. Yeah.
The thing about Conor McGregor though is like any time, and people love to write him off. Anytime you write him off, he just comes out with that left hand. Like, do you know what I mean? And if you look at what he did to Poirier, and then you look at what Gaethje and Poirier did to Gaethje, do you know what I mean? I'd be looking at Gaethje would definitely take out McGregor, but then just Jose Aldo situation, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you just loading up and bang McGregor catching that counter left, I could definitely see that happen.
Alvarez Poirier too. With the Alvarez Poirier fight as well, like Alvarez and Justin fight. Like, Alvarez did really well against Justin in those two fights. I think it was so like it's all for grabs, really. You know what I mean? Like, it's all for grabs, and I think that obviously Conor against Justin, Conor has to win his favourite. No matter if Justin beats Khabib, Conor will still go into that fight as a favourite, even coming back from a long layoff. Like,
yeah, if you think about it, like who'd win in a boxing fight, Conor McGregor or Justin Gaethje? If it was just boxing, you'd say Conor. So you'd definitely say Conor. But Gaethje doesn't wrestle, so it's a boxing fight with MMA with 4-ounce gloves on. Do you know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, even look at that stylistically. I think like Gaethje just walks into shots. You can even see against Ferguson, like he kept walking forward. You do that against McGregor, you're getting picked off. It's simple as that.
Oh, he wants you to come, like, and if you come, even better. Like, if you just walk into it, even better, you know. So yeah, I think
100%. John, I'd like to ask you just about the Tony Ferguson versus Dustin Poirier fight. Now, in the lightweight division, that's a very big fight in terms of who's going to get like the next crack at Khabib or Gaethje, because like it doesn't look like McGregor is coming back anytime soon. There's like kind of no big fights, and like even in terms of the last couple of weeks, there's reports that McGregor might be fighting Manny Pacquiao. So like there's no kind of like, I suppose, big kind of news in terms of McGregor and in terms of his return to MMA. Like, what do you think about that Poirier versus Ferguson fight? Like, who do you think will come out on top in that fight?
I think just Poirier's age and Poirier's where he is now, it seems like he's prime now, you know what I mean? And I think, like, it seemed like, you know, sometimes it seems like fighters age 10 years overnight, like, And I think once Tony Ferguson came back from that injury and stuff, he was just older and he was different, like, you know what I mean? And I think if that happened now, Poirier would take it. Like, Poirier's gonna, but then again, like Tony Ferguson, like he kind of got a bad shake of it, like fighting Gaethje, change of opponent and all that stuff, and he had already done a weight cut. So I don't know. If I had to put money on it, I'd put Poirier on it. Poirier to win, but I wouldn't put money on it. Could go either way, like, you know.
And lads, kind of looking at the boxing kind of scene, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury is a very kind of big fight that's in the pipeline coming soon. And even Tyson Fury was speaking last night to BT Sport, and he said, like, if Deontay Wilder can't make the fight in December, he'd like to fight Anthony Joshua, then kind of get that fight on the way in that time. Like, what do you think, lads, with regards to this fight? Who do you think would have the upper hand in that fight? Because they're two very big heavyweights, and they're both at the top of their game at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's just frustrating to even watch that, because, like, you see with MMA, like, the best lads always fight the best lads. You know what I mean? Like they always do. There's no hiding. In Thai boxing, the best lads fight the best lads about 5 times a year. You know what I mean? If you look at Lumpini and Rajdam Stadium, like, boxing, like, do you remember when Floyd Mayweather fought Pacquiao, and he literally waited until Pacquiao got very old and then fought him? Like, I know Anthony Joshua's older than Tyson Fury. Like, it seems like it's going to go that way. Like Tyson Fury's candles burned from both ends nearly, and then I think Joshua's going to fight him, and it's a dose, because like Josh, like they should have fought 3 times already. You know what I mean? Like, so I hope it just happens soon.
Yeah, and with regards to that fight, like, who do you think could come out on top with regards to that? Like, do you think maybe Fury would be too well-rounded for him, or do you think maybe Joshua, you know, he does have power and he might knock him out?
Yeah, you just have to say Fury. I'd love to see Fury go through him. He's a better boxer, and I think Daniel Dubois, you know, Double D or Triple D, but he's both. And I know he was saying that Fury was a lot better, like.
Yeah, and like, and Jamie, what do you think about that upcoming fight? Like, stylistically, how do you think it would go down yourself?
I think what John was saying there is right. I think if it happens in the next probably year and a half, I think Fury has Joshua all day long. But if it starts to drag out again, as John was saying, maybe 3 years, whatever it might be, then you just don't know with Fury. Will he start to lose the interest in terms of boxing and stuff, and that will make a massive difference. I think Joshua might wait, but yeah, look, when you look at Tyson, what he's done over the last 3 years, coming back and fighting Deontay Wilder after all that time, like, you know what I mean, a fellow who hadn't been beaten, and look, he's beaten him in the first fight. We know he's beaten him in the first fight. The draw was an absolute disastrous decision. It was crazy. Yeah. And then what's happened is he showed how good he is again by actually altering his style. So he isn't actually going to do what he normally does. He comes out, changes his style completely. He gets Kronk Jim in, and it's just literally he knocks out Wilder in 6 rounds. Like, it's unbelievable. This man's mindset is unbelievable. And we talked about the mental preparation at the beginning of the podcast. His mental preparation must be absolutely crazy, because nothing seems to faze the man. Nothing seems to faze him. So I think Tyson has him all day long if it happens very, very soon. But again, it's the stretch, how Tyson feels with the fight when it starts to go 2 or 3 years, and then Joshua may have an advantage then because of age.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. Yeah,
100%. John, kind of just with regards to Conor McGregor, now obviously we kind of allude to his lack of activity at the moment. He's on kind of his 3rd or 4th retirement at this stage. I've kind of lost count how many times he said he's retired. But with regards to McGregor, like, what do you think his next step should be in terms of his return? Like, would you like to see him go back to boxing, or if he goes back to MMA, like, who would you like to see him fight next?
Yeah, like, it's just, as long as that lad's been fighting, it's so hard to predict what he's going to do. You know what I mean? Like he's at that stage in his career, I suppose. Like, he's only doing it for legacy. Like, he's a made man. He's probably making more off the whiskey than he was off the fighting now. You know what I mean? Like, off his businesses and his brand, his name himself. If he came back, like just nearly just give him Khabib again. Do you know what I mean? Just put him in, see if he can, like, and like just give him that big fight. Like, I don't know if that'll ever happen now, but you know, I suppose he's just, like, he just doesn't play by the rules. Like, Joe, you should say he should come back, and he's kind of like have to do what Dominic Cruz did and work up a few fights. But like, knowing him and Dana White, they'll probably just put him straight into Khabib or something, you know. I'd love to see him fight Poirier again. I'd love to see that fight. And that's probably the fight I'd like to see the most if he came back at the moment.
Him versus Poirier.
Yeah, I think it'd be class. I think it'd be different this time as well. So I still think McGregor would. Sorry, go on.
Jamie, who would you like to see him fight? Like, I know Jorge Masvidal is one of your favorite fighters. You've kind of spoke really highly about Jorge recently. Like, would you like to see maybe a possible McGregor and Masvidal fight for the BMF belt?
Not really. Overall, I think 170 probably is a stretch for Conor. He still looks strong at it, but I think 155. Like I think I've watched Eddie Alvarez fight maybe 250 times, I'd say, in the last 3 or 4 years. Like, and that to me is he looked at his very, 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 very best. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, it's actually unbelievable. And I still maintain that the Conor that night that fought Alvarez was the fight, the Khabib that fought Michael Johnson that night. Conor would have won that night. He had fought 4 times in 12 months. He looked really fresh, looked really sharp, and 155 has always looked like his best weight class. It always has. He just looks really good there. I think he looks a little bit too bulky at 170. But if he was to come back, I actually agree with John. I like to see him either fighting Poirier or Tony. So I like to see the winner of Poirier and Tony to fight Conor maybe in January or February, and that'll be #1 contender then for the belt. Then maybe early April, May next year. So that's my matchmaking for next year's UFC fights.
And what about heavyweight lads? John Jones, like, potentially moving up to fight Stipe. Would you like to see that, or maybe like to see Ngannou get the crack at Stipe first?
I just think Joe Ngannou, like, when you go into MMA, you don't really want the blueprint of how to beat you. Do you know what I mean? And like, Ngannou, like, there's 100% the blueprint of how to beat him. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, like, he's ferociously strong puncher, and he's technical as well, and he's like physically very strong. But like, it's Olympic wrestlers, like Olympic wrestling category, that one really cut it. Like, you know what I mean? You could be as strong as you want, and they'll sit you down. You know. So I think like Stipe is a good wrestler, but let's say if you get just some really wrestler heavy, like, who's a really good wrestler at heavyweight, like, that always goes to wrestle? Is it Curtis Blade?
Yeah.
No, Curtis Blade. Like, let's say
he probably won't be the best.
Yeah, and you know, like, and then you get someone that's not going to box them. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he just gets taken down again, like, or maybe his wrestling's better. I don't know. I think like a bigger version of DC should just take down Francis Ngannou. Like, just from training myself, I just think, you know what I mean? That's the way that would go.
Yeah, and like with John Jones, like, John, do you think that maybe, like, how do you think him and Stipe would match up if they did fight? Like, because it's heavily rumored at the moment.
Yeah, that's a mad one. Like Stipe is so big, but John Jones is so talented. You know what I mean? So like I think John Jones is a better fighter. But also, do you remember when John Jones first came back and he fought Ovince Peru and he put on a lot of muscle? It didn't suit him. Yeah, it didn't actually suit him to fight that weight. Like, so maybe if he goes up to heavyweight, that doesn't suit him. Maybe if he goes up to heavyweight, don't fight Stipe first. You know what I mean? See how you get on against someone a little lower, and then Stipe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad shout at all. That wouldn't be a bad shout. Probably get accustomed to the weight class. You know, have a fight there, get a 5-round fight in, and then go in and fight Stipe. Well, if all goes well, because obviously at heavyweight you just never know. Like, one shot and you're out. Like.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and you see John Jones as he gets older, he is getting touched more. You know what I mean? Like, one thing that's true about MMA is, like, any of the greats, like Joe Anderson Silva, Fedor, besides Khabib so far, they all kind of got it in the end. Once they got to a certain age and went over the tipping point, they all started getting touched and knocked out by lads. So maybe that could happen. John Jones, like your man Santos touched him a lot. Thiago Santos, you know what I mean? Like yeah. I know he
and even the Dominic Reyes fight as well.
There you go, Dominic Reyes. Yeah, and like, you know, Dominic Reyes isn't a heavyweight. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it's an interesting one. I'd love to see it happen though. I'd love to see him go. It's a real fan favorite one to see him go at heavyweight, like, because he's been around forever. Like, you know what I mean?
100%. Jamie, like, what do you think? Like, would you like to see the Reyes rematch? Because I know a lot of people are clamoring for Dominic Reyes and John Jones to go at it again.
Yeah, no, I can't see him fighting again light heavyweight. I just don't see it happen. I think there's been too much commotion and drama over the whole thing over the last couple of months with the UFC, and I think he's settled on going to heavyweight. The one thing about fighting Stipe currently, Stipe is probably 230 at the moment. He isn't actually as heavy as what he was before, and maybe John will look at that and kind of go, could have went to that fight maybe 225 to 230 and have a skill level that could beat Stipe. And I just don't know would he want to fight Francis. John, I don't know. It's a little bit dangerous, I think, fighting Francis. I think Stipe is probably the easier fight for him in terms of. I just see Francis being so unpredictable, like in that, and like as John was saying, like if Thiago Santos is touching you and kind of hurting you, like in that Thiago Santos fight, I think something happened to Thiago's shin, was it? I think in the third or fourth round, he didn't look the same after, or was his ankle?
ACL or something.
Really good in that fight. I think it was his ACL or something. Yeah. So against Ngannou, who's so unpredictable and has a very high level skill for striking, it could be a dangerous fight, and he will come in heavy against him as well. He'll come in at 255, 260, and John will struggle to get to that weight. So yeah, I think Stipe is the better fight for him. But the heavyweight division to me isn't that interesting, other than Stipe and DC. I don't know. I just don't really kind of find it that interesting. Like mentioned, Curtis Blades really good. But outside of that four of Jones, Stipe, Curtis Blades, and Ngannou, there isn't really anybody outside of that then really that you can look at that are title contenders.
What's upsetting as well, there's a lot of gatekeepers in that division as well. You know what I mean? Like Junior Dos Santos, someone needs to retire. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like the Eddie Alvarez thing, like you're saying. I've seen him fight how many times in the last 3 years, and I've seen him got knocked out a lot as well. You know what I mean? So yeah. Definitely, there's more exciting divisions.
Same as Overeem, all them lads.
Yeah. Still cool to see the big lads go at it though.
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't know in heavyweight fights. Absolutely. Like it's just mad. Like one shot and it's just all over. Like, do you know? I suppose gone are the days are Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir and all them. Like, do you know, back in kind of, I suppose they call it kind of the golden age of the kind of heavyweight division when Cain Velasquez was there as well. Like it was kind of the heavyweight division had a lot more bigger stars than it does now.
Yeah, I think Cain Velasquez, Joe, back in the day when he had that engine on him and he had that pace, I think he beats any of these lads. I really do. Like, do you remember when he was doing those trilogy fights with Junior Dos Santos? Those fights were like proper skill. But the good thing about Francis Ngannou is, like, Joe, he just personifies heavyweight fighting nowadays. Like, pretty, but it'll knock you out. And, you know, that's just exciting to see all the time. You know what I mean? So I just loved watching. You always tune in.
Yeah, 100%. John, just kind of one final one before we finish up here. Obviously, you're recently signed with Cage Warriors, and you have a big fight against Alex Borkowski in Manchester coming soon. Like in the next kind of 18 months, like where do you see yourself? Where do you see your career?
You just never know, boy. You know what I mean? Like what I noticed about this sport, and it's mad, is if I just worry about the day to day, like the tomorrow kind of takes care of itself, and that's always the way it's going. Like, Joe, first started this and I was amateur, I was like, I just want to win a fight. And then I kept working hard, and then I was like, I just want to win a belt. And then I was like, I want to be the best in UK and Ireland. And Joe, now I'm just saying, I just want to win my second pro fight. So, you know, man, if I keep working hard, it's going to come to me more than I'm going to come to it. Like it's already happening for me. I just need to keep worrying, make it absolutely burst my balls day to day, and the 18 months to take care of itself. Hopefully I'm somewhere good, man. So hopefully somewhere good. Do you know what I mean?
100%, and you know, 100%. Like, look, if everyone was know it's next month. It will be live on the UFC Fight Pass, I believe, John. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah.
So, John, just one final question. This podcast is predominantly a football podcast. Like we do talk about combat sports on this podcast too, but predominantly it's a football podcast. Do you support any football team or anything like that?
No, not even a bit. And it's funny, like, because, you know, football fans, I think, will still get a lot from this, because, like, do you ever hear Dana White saying if there's like a huge pitch and it's like 500 meters big, and in this corner there's American football, in this corner there's soccer, this corner there's football, and this corner there's hurling. If a fight breaks out, where's everyone going to look? So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%. John, thanks very much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great to get like an insight, into your fighting career and just your overall opinions on combat sports. And we here at the Weekly Armchair Kickoff, we do wish you the best of luck in your upcoming fight and for the rest of your career. We do see very big things for you. Looking best of luck with everything.
100%, lads, and we'll have another podcast after I knock Braikalski or whoever his name is out. We'll make a day of it.
Brilliant.
Definitely. I think the next podcast we'll have you, Dylan, and Eric on, because Eric has a title fight coming up soon. So we'll definitely have you on again 100%.
Yeah. And try convince Lamar to go into MMA. Perfect.
We'll try our best. John, cheers for coming on, and Jamie again, thanks for coming on as always.
Yeah.
Thanks,
cheers, boys.
John.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Bye. Cheers.